It's time to get nerdy, y'all.
A little bit of gaming history for you.
Something relevant in gaming and discuss our opinions on it.
Should we kick it out of here, or should we kick-start it?
This is the part where you, the listeners, try to stump the hosts.
I'm not a lawyer. I just play one on a podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's Tuesday, September 1st, 2025, and you know what that means. It's time to get nerdy, y'all. Welcome to episode number 354 of Two Nerds in a Pod, the nerdiest video game podcast in the galaxy. My name is Lam, also known as Mr. Nice Guy, joined by my comrade in gaming commentary, the Miggity Mac, also known as Maction. Mac, what's good, buddy? How you been?
Oh, man, I've been pretty all right. Nothing compared to, my life crazy, not interesting in comparison to the trip to Worldcon and everything that I got to, to report on last time around.
Sure.
But this time around, just really sort of a relaxing weekend. Not too much, a little bit of drama at work, but, nothing that can't be handled. Just sort of run-of-the-mill stuff. We were going to go out of town this week, but as luck or misfortune would have it, there were going to be more people going there than we originally anticipated, which would have meant somebody finding a hotel room, which was impossible on the holiday weekend where we were going to. And so we're like, as long as you won't take it personally, we'll just stay home and let you spend and focus on those family members instead of having to split your time amongst a whole bunch. And so we stayed home, had a staycation. It's real good. I'm, refreshed and ready for tomorrow. How about you, dude? Surely you didn't do anything exciting or interesting.
Didn't do anything exciting. No, had a fantastic, very exciting weekend. We did our annual Labor Day camp out up in the Green Bay area with a couple other families that we always go up with. And I would say our style of camping, Mac, is like not quite glamping, as some would call it, but it's definitely not hardcore camping. So, I mean, we and our family have like a big, like, you could probably fit like 15 people in our tent if you really needed to, right? Like 3 separate bedrooms. I'll send you a picture because it's not as fancy as you're envisioning it, but it's definitely a big tent.
Okay.
Right? Air mattress in the room that my wife and I stay in, and then we're using propane to cook, right? Like we do light fires, but I'm using fire starters. And we're making it as easy as possible to be out in the woods.
S'mores?
S'mores, we do that. We actually have a machine that makes the s'mores for us. So you put the marshmallow in, and then it assembles the graham cracker and the chocolate, and you get like a perfectly cooked s'more every time. You don't have to deal with the smoke from the fire. I'm kidding, dude. I'm totally kidding.
Thank goodness.
This is why you got to be here for the live show. Mac's face was like, this is blasphemous.
Mm-hmm.
No. The one thing we cheat with s'mores is we don't use sticks for the marshmallows. Like we have like metal, like sticks, right? I don't think that's cheating too much.
No.
But we definitely make s'mores on the campfire and deal with the smell and the burning them because sugar catches fire.
Oh, yeah. But when you find that little patch of coals, hold it just the right distance and slow rotisserie. Oh, it's so satisfying.
Yes. We went with 2 other families. All the kids across families like to burn them. They like them to catch fire, crispy on the outside for like 2 seconds, gooey on the inside. Mac, while we were up there, got the chance to play some laser tag at a laser tag facility I've never been to. 2 stories.
Yeah.
Super, super fun. I won't go too much into that, but had a blast. Ate good food. Came back tonight. I told you I took a nice long nap on the couch, got back here early, and then like right before I hopped on here with you, appetizers and drinks with neighbors up the street. So it's been a very busy, but like a very, very good weekend. So yeah, that's it.
Oh, man, that's fantastic. Thrilled to have you back, Mr. Nice Guy. I'm glad that you were here, glad that you've had such a full day, and like real appreciative that you carved out the time to do the show today.
Dude, I'm appreciative that you carved out the time. But you know what? This, for me, is like the cherry on top.
I feel the same.
This is the chocolate on the s'more of this weekend, right? Like, you could eat a s'more without chocolate, but like, is it really a s'more? It's not. You could have a Monday without two nerds, but then is it really a day? It's not. And so on that note, I say we do what we do best and hop right up in that gaming news. What do you think, man?
Absolutely, dude. What is new in Vigigaming?
Dude, there's so much cool stuff that I want to talk about today, but we're going to focus on the highlights.
Yeah.
And so thank you everyone for tuning into episode 354. If you're here from the Podcast Awards, thank you for joining us, hearing our banter and now our video game talk. Mac, we're going to talk a little bit about inflation to start things off. Okay. This story is from Kotaku.com, written by Ethan Gach. Here is what it's titled, Hollow Knight Silksong fans can't believe how cheap it is. This was written just yesterday. And before we even get into this, Mac, I want to give you some context. Hollow Knight original, $15 at launch. Before I read this, I want to get your guess of what you think Hollow Knight Silksong is going to cost.
So
Title may give you
I can't guess because I already know the price. I do, or at least I know what has been reported on. It has been everywhere, and as a citizen of the internet, I could not escape it. $19.99, I'm given to understand, is the launch price.
Yeah, so here's what he writes, and you're right. He writes, it's mildly shocking that Hollow Knight was just $15 when it came to PC back in 2017. It's even more surprising that 8 years and over 1 million Steam wishlists later, the sequel is only $5 more. Team Cherry has confirmed Silksong's final price and launch time, cementing this upcoming week as the official kickoff of the 2025 fall video game release blitz. This is going to be a great fall. He goes on to say, while most games have gone up $10 or more in the jump to the current console generation, Hollow Knight Silksong is aggressively going against the grain with just a $20 price tag on Steam and elsewhere. Team Cherry only officially confirmed the amount on Sunday night after a weekend of speculation following leaks on GameSpot and elsewhere. This is interesting, Mac. The move has won Team Cherry tons of additional goodwill with fans who were already praising it for withholding review copies so that Kickstarter backers would still be among the first to get access to the game. Plenty of players commenting on the latest pricing announcement still can't understand why the game isn't more. I'll be honest, I didn't even know that Silksong was a Kickstarter. Or maybe it's that people who bought Hollow Knight are getting access.
That's the one.
I don't know.
It's the Hollow Knight. If you backed Hollow Knight, I believe you're getting Silksong for free.
How do you feel about that? I mean, there's only really one way.
Yeah, I'm like sad that I missed out, but also thrilled for the people who supported Team Cherry back when they were getting started.
Yeah, and so like I'm not gonna sit here and ask you obvious questions with obvious answers. So rather than saying how do you feel about, well, but that's boring, right? And I know people do that, and it's just not like a fun listen. It's not a fun conversation. Why do you think, rather than like how do you feel, like why do you think $5 more over a 7-year period? Certainly that's not tracking with inflation, right?
Oh,
why only $5 more? I have a strong theory.
My theory is that Team Cherry, they took 7 years to make this game. They didn't have to crunch. They weren't hurting for money. They strike me, this is theory, I don't know, just pure conjecture, but they strike me as a team of people who enjoy what they're doing, but also, they are secure. And so they don't have to crunch and they don't have to do the other things that we associate a lot with the games industry. And yeah, that's why I think they're doing it at, just $5 more, because it's like, hey, we'll take the extra money, but we don't want it to be unobtainable from the average gamer or even from the poorer of the gamers. So that's my take, but I might be reading an awful lot into it.
So this is super interesting. I agree with what you're saying, but I don't think that is the reason why. Like, I think that may have been a factor.
Okay.
I don't believe that there's anyone in business who is just truly, truly altruistic. They are here to make games and to make money.
What about the Arizona iced tea, dude?
I don't know. You'd have to give me some background on that. And is that in gaming or business?
Arizona iced tea, those cans of Arizona you'll find at the supermarket have been like 99 cents for the past like 20 years.
Yeah, so okay.
And the dude's just like, hey, we own all our stuff. We have all our things outright. We're keeping it at 99 cents. Stay frosty, everybody.
Sure. So even though the Costco hot dog has remained $1.50 for a really, really long time, they're making their profits elsewhere.
Okay.
And you go to Costco, you shop, you buy a lot. Oh, and hey, I can get a hot dog on the way out. That's a perk of the membership, right? Even though you could maybe go in without a membership and get the hot dog. That's something that the CEO has gone on record as saying, you will not change the price of this hot dog.
Yeah.
We're going to keep it $1.50, and you're going to get a little drink with it.
Yeah. Loss leaders in supermarkets.
Yeah, 100%. You sell a video game console at a loss, you're making it back with the games, right? This is a business model that's been around for a long time. All that is to say, Game Pass launched June 1st of 2017, according to this Google search. Hollow Knight came out in 2017, at a time when Game Pass was really not a thing, at least not as big as it is today. Now, with this game launching on Game Pass, day one, day and date, they want to ensure that they are still getting a certain number of sales. And so by making it only $5 more than the original game, they're saying, hey, buy this. If you're on Steam, buy this. Not saying don't go on Game Pass, but we want to actually sell copies. Because, Mac, I think that part of the notoriety of a game is not just how many people play it, but how many copies sell. And Game Pass, despite the profits that may come as a result, objectively decreases the number of copies of a game that sell.
Especially in the opening salvo of a release, 100%.
For someone like me who's a hardcore Hollow Knight fan, it is a top 5 game of all time for me. I want to own a copy, and I want to support these devs directly. I want to support Team Cherry. And so if it was $30, I might be like, you know what? I'm just going to get it on Game Pass, play it digitally, and then when it's on sale, I'll buy it. But now it's only $5 more. I'm absolutely buying this day one, which reality is I would have done it anyway. But I think that for people on the fence, I think this helps. $5 more over 7 years. Great rate.
Agreed. If it had been $30, I might have waited for a sale, but yeah, I've already got $20 bill set aside, ready to rock and roll.
I got that $20 bill ready to stick it in that Steam vending machine and buy the game. Well, Mac, here's another news story. This one's super interesting to me as someone who's a fan of the nostalgic memories that come with GoldenEye 64. This is on GameSpot.com. Next PlayStation State of Play announced, coming very soon. Sony has announced the next PlayStation State of Play event, and it's coming up very soon and focused exclusively on the upcoming James Bond game 007 First Light from Hitman developer IO Interactive. The State of Play takes place Wednesday, September 3rd, starting at 11 a.m. Pacific Time. The broadcast will feature over 30 minutes of gameplay for the upcoming title, including a playthrough of Bond's first mission when he becomes an MI6 recruit. Quote, the action includes everything from high-speed car chases to on-foot stealth sequences and shootouts. Stay tuned after the playthrough for insights from IO Interactive on an intense espionage gameplay, the developer said. Mac, I got a question for you because I was a huge GoldenEye fan back in the day. Did you play GoldenEye 64 a lot or medium amount? What would you say?
I would say a medium amount, considering that I did not have my own Nintendo 64, but a reasonable chunk, considering that I had people in my orbit who did. Odd Job, nobody was allowed to use Odd Job for obvious reasons.
Right.
But, and if any out there don't get that, that's because the character model was shorter, so you would have to be fuddling with up and down in a first-person shooter that was not all that easy to control.
He was hard to shoot.
Yeah, he was just hard to hit. I did play GoldenEye a bunch. I don't remember there ever being any vehicle scenes or vehicle chases inside GoldenEye 64. So I'm excited for a James Bond game that has some car chases and things like that. First Light sounds like it could be very good.
Car chases, sure, that's checked off the list. What gets you excited about this game outside of potential for nostalgia? And I don't even want to assume that nostalgia is what gets you excited, but I have some strong opinions about the Bond IP, and so I'm interested to hear your thoughts about this. We've seen them try to remake Bond stuff over the years. In fact, James Bond Reloaded, GoldenEye Reloaded on Wii came out. What do you think?
So I'll probably be departing from what most people would think, but while I enjoyed GoldenEye 64, it was at its heart just a shooter, and that was basically it. I haven't really ever seen that many games that lean into an espionage. There is actually one that I can think of. The name is escaping me, but it was like on Amiga or Commodore 64 or one of those that was very much geared towards the espionage side of things. I'd love to see some more of that in a James Bond game. I know that it's mostly about explosions, guns, and cars, the James Bond IP, but, you know, I'd love to see him trying to infiltrate areas, talk his way around security and through obstacles, and planting listening devices and the like. I think that could be a fun part of the whole gameplay cycle. But yeah, I'd like to see that in some James Bond games.
You know, to put it super simply, I feel like Bond as an IP since GoldenEye 64 has been grasping at straws. And I know that this may be a departure from that, but I feel like a big part of why people get excited about these games is because they have either heard or experienced that time frame when GoldenEye 64 was such a big thing. Because we have no shortage of games that fit into this genre in terms of things where games where you're a spy, games where you're using gadgets, games where you're a suave, smooth operator. Like, there's no shortage of games like that. But I think that the hope from people in their, you know, mid to late 30s, early 40s who experienced that period is that, oh, we're going to get that lightning in a bottle again. And I just don't think that we will. I don't even know if this game has multiplayer. If it does, I hope that they just make something that's modern, that controls well, and that can get an audience. I don't think that we really need the past brought back to the present. At least not there.
Okay. I did remember the name of the game. It was Sid Meier's Covert Action.
Okay.
That's the name of the game. But I agree. We've got plenty of shooters. We don't really need, you know, a rehash. I hope they can bring some new stuff to the game. That's what I'm hoping.
That's what I'm hoping for.
Same.
Last news story, and we'll talk about this one briefly, Mac. This is about Borderlands. And this is from PCGamer.com, written by Tyler Culp. Like any good loot-based RPG, Borderlands 4 won't be over after it drops in a few weeks. Gearbox has a big plan to release a mix of free and paid DLC over the next year to keep the game's extensive endgame fresh. The first concrete details about the endgame and the next year of updates were revealed during a panel at PAX West today. Mac, unlike previous Borderlands, the new game's Ultimate Vault Hunter mode won't make you retread for the campaign once you've completed it once. Instead, you get to skip all that and focus on completing increasingly difficult mission challenges as you rank up. Or to rank up, excuse me. You can even start new characters at level 30 just to do the endgame mode. What are your thoughts on being able to skip the fluff, so to speak? Is this an efficiency thing? Is it a convenience thing? Are they truly being altruistic here? As you've seen today, I can be a skeptic. And did you understand what I was saying when it says you can skip to level 30 with some of those characters?
Yeah. I mean, I think so within the context. I'm reminded of skipping portions of a video game. I'm reminded of a game called Alone in the Dark that came out in about 2008. It was set almost entirely inside of Central Park in New York. And among the things that you could do in that game was you could basically skip to any chapter in the game, except you could not skip past the sort of final lead up to the final boss and everything. That was the only thing you couldn't skip, but you could pop around, you could go forward, and it was very much presented as like a, you know, you can skip the fluff type of thing, which I did... at the time I liked, but in retrospect, it very much hurt my enjoyment of the game overall because getting to the end didn't feel like I had accomplished the thing. It just kind of felt like, oh, the game's real short. And I don't know how many other people had that experience, but I know that a lot of people didn't care much for the game overall, and I think that certainly influenced it. So I'm skeptical about the mechanic of skipping a whole chunk of the game for whatever reason, just because I feel like, hey, why did many people work many hours to make this content if you're just going to have it skipped?
Well, and so I agree, and that was my first thought.
Yeah.
I think that I did read this. It sounds like, maybe you've played through it once with one character, but now you want to do a different class, and you could skip through that class and create a second.
Okay.
But also, I read another paragraph here that says it sounds like Gearbox is confident that most people will have completed the campaign by the time that this is available. So it does imply that you are correct, that someone could hypothetically buy the game and say, screw it, I don't want to play the main story, I just want to play this DLC.
Yeah.
And that is where it doesn't sit well with me, because like you said, people put a lot of time into this. They make the game for a reason. There's going to be references, there's going to be callbacks, there's going to be jokes in the DLC that you won't quite get if you didn't play it. Now, it's one thing to play through the game with a hunter and then not want to play through it with an assassin and to level up that assassin, right? But to me, it's kind of a, hey, we're going to make this other DLC and we want people to be able to buy it without putting in tons of hours. It's kind of a money thing. And that doesn't sit well with me. I'm old school here.
Yeah.
That's what I got to say.
Yeah. Couldn't have said it better myself, but I mean, I hope it turns out to be a thing that makes it easier for some people to get into, but doesn't detract from the hard work everybody put in.
That's been our news for the week.
All right, well, now we turn to a little bit of gaming history. What's gone on in years before this last week? And Mr. Nice Guy, we've got some fantastic things. Xbox 360 2008, Castle Crashers, a game that will live in my heart forever. It just speaks to a period of time, as, this was around when I was getting married, had friends with Xbox 360s. This is early, Xbox Live Arcade, great times with friends.
Love it.
A little bit farther back, 1998, Mega Man Legends for the PS1. A game that struggled, I will say, to make that move into 3 dimensions. Not the worst 3D Mega Man game by any stretch. No, we've got contenders for that later on. But definitely an interesting take on the IP. And surprisingly, and on point to our previous conversation, 1997 released for the N64. GoldenEye 64.
Nice.
Now, real quick, Mr. Nice Guy, I mentioned Oddjob was outlawed in our games. Were there any specific types of, player versus player loadouts specifically that you would use when playing split screen GoldenEye 64?
Yeah, my favorite gun, and it's funny because it speaks to what types of guns I like to use in-game today, was the RCP-90, which, if I remember correctly, was like a submachine gun that just had really, really fast fire and a pretty big clip.
Yeah.
Obviously, the golden gun, one-shot kill, right? Super fun. One of my best memories of this game is the mods that existed. They had a big head mode, and my favorite mod, the paintball mode. Just like lighting up the level with different color paintballs.
Oh, yeah.
And just having a blast there. No screen watching. That was the unofficial rule.
Good times were had by all. Definitely an iconic game. But I want to take us even a little bit farther back, Mr. Nice Guy, to 1987. Because that was the release of something that was very much more important to computer games, a thing called the Roland MT32.
Tell me more.
So, to conceptualize it, Mr. Nice Guy, video games back then were small. Keep in mind that the largest NES game takes up less space than 1 second of the MP3 that our listeners are listening to while they play this podcast. Less than a second, same amount of data as the entire NES game. And much easier than like trying to store music in a game back then was to basically give the computer or consoles what amounted to digital sheet music, and to have that music, rendered by the sound chips of the console or the computer rather than storing the sounds. We would call these files MIDI files, which some of us may recall. Now, the MT32, the Roland MT32, became kind of the workhorse for video game posers, as it was one of the first really affordable music, computer music synths. So much so that in the 1990s, most computer games had similar but wildly different soundtracks if you had the more powerful synth. Because not every sound card, and back in those days we had different sound cards.
Right.
Not all of them had the same capabilities. Some of them couldn't do multiple notes at once. Some of them had limited types of notes that they could do, like composing for the NES. You had like 4 or 5 different things: sawtooth waves, square waves. These different types of of sounds that you could produce. And because not everything had it, you would get different experiences. Now, I will say, as a brief aside, the Sega Genesis had better music chips than the Super Nintendo, but the Super Nintendo had much better composing software. So it is a topic for another time, but you can listen to Super Nintendo music that's rendered with the Yamaha chips from the Sega Genesis, and it sounds, at least in my opinion, incredibly better, because it was just higher quality, things. But don't take my word for it. Go for it some other time. But back onto the topic of the Roland MT32. Because these video game composers were composing with it, they had to basically mix the music to multiple different levels depending on what your hardware would allow. And I have prepared with a little sample that goes through what you might be able to play if you were just, say, I don't know, using your PC's integrated sound card, which was basically nothing. Then if you had something that was actually an honest-to-goodness sound card, and then what a game would sound like from if you had the Roland MT32 or something similar to it attached to your computer. So, Mr.
Sure.
Nice Guy, I'll behold the sample.
All right, let's play. Nice.
Care to guess what IP?
Indiana Jones?
Heck yeah. The next one?
Yep. Okay, very, very different.
Yeah. Better?
Yeah.
And then the third.
It's glorious.
Yeah.
We got a few more seconds. That was great, man.
This is the type of stuff. The Roland MT32 came out in 87, but it was the thing to do. It was the thing to use for music composing. And you can kind of see, when you've got more options, the music sounds much richer, fuller, better. It sounds more like you've got options. And these are the types of things where you probably never got to experience that. All that music was from Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis, an excellent point-and-click adventure game, but also something that leveraged that MT32 or large computer, music synths like it. I will say, though, I did cheat ever so slightly to work this in today, because I went combing through the archives of music technology magazines.
Okay.
And the September issue of Sound on Sound magazine is the first issue that I could find with any hands-on info about the MT32. There is no established release date of it, just a release year, but September was the first one that I could actually find that somebody had hands on it, so therefore, release date, I'm calling it September 1, 1987. So let it be written, so let it be canon. Huzzah.
Nice. Love it, dude. It reminds me almost of how you think about the jump from the NES to the N64. Excuse me, the NES to the SNES, or SNES to N64, or any of those, right?
Yeah.
It was a huge deal.
Oh, for sure.
And now, PS4 to PS5, not as big a jump. Right, exactly. And so music is very similar. Like, you notice the 8-bit, to the next one, and then it gets better, but after a while, it's not as big a jump. But it was cool to hear the progression.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on that history journey with me, Mr. Nice Guy. That's what I've got for this week.
Awesome. Love it. Well, Mac, we got a super interesting story for our next segment, which is our topic of the week, a segment where we talk about something relevant in gaming and discuss our opinions on it. And as a side note, super excited for next week because we will be back to Indie Game of the Week. And we have a couple things in the pipeline for Mac and I to discuss. But today, going to talk about this new potential piece of hardware that's rumored. And this is from Tom's Guide. Valve might be working on a new Steam console that connects to your TV, and its specs just got leaked. Here's what Scott Yonker writes. Valve's handheld Steam Deck is still one of the best gaming handhelds despite being several years old at this point. A new leak suggests Valve may be working on a TV-based console and not the Steam Deck 2. Benchmarks for the potential console, dubbed Fremont, were shared by VR leaker, sadly it's Bradley on X or Twitter. Some specs for the device were also shared. This isn't the first time Fremont has been leaked, but it's the first time actual specs for the device have been revealed. The last leak from December 2024 made the console seem more like a streaming box, a la Google Stadia, RIP, than a standard console. This time, the specs reveal a device that appears to be more powerful than the Steam Deck, but not quite up to the same level as the PS5. The benchmark reveals Fremont and another device codenamed Galileo, which may be a lower-tier version of Fremont. Both devices feature an AMD custom CPU with model number 1772, which has about 6 cores and 12 threads. It also shows the CPU is an AMD Hawk Point 2 model, like the Ryzen 200 series mobile chip, which suggests that it's built on Zen 4 architecture, which AMD is still using. Mac, I'm not going to go too much more into the specs, but this is very fascinating to me, given that there's always rumors that Valve is working on something from a hardware perspective. Like, some people think that we're going to get the Valve Index 2. Some people think that the Steam Deck 2 is coming. Some now are specifying or hypothesizing that there's going to be a home console. Is this something that you want? Let me rephrase that. Is this something that's needed? A potential for a streaming console that does Steam stuff and has the specs that we just went over.
So I'm going to say I don't think that it is necessary. I have my desktop to handle some games. I have my Steam Deck that I can plug into my television to handle other types of games. And I don't think that I am the type of person who needs a set-top console like that. I mean, I'm sure that there are some people who might, but I just don't think I would get any use out of one. Frankly.
So here's the better question: is like, what niche does it fill, right? So Mac doesn't need it. I don't need it. Valve is very, very, very smart people.
Oh, for sure.
And so, granted, this is rumored, but if they're making it, they seem to think that there's something that this will do that isn't already done by the Steam Deck or by people's PCs. So, like, who's buying this? I know that's a tough question, but what do you think, man?
I am reminded, because all I can do is reach back into the past. I'm stuck in the past, Mr. Nice Guy.
We know.
I remember the Xbox Media Center, and that was legit awesome. The ability to play DVDs, to play, all sorts of video files and things like that. Granted, you had to, hack your Xbox to make it happen, but you could play games, you could watch television and you could watch that anyway, but you could play games, you could do DVDs, you could do a whole bunch of media center related things. You could even, get stuff off of your network attached storage if you were savvy enough to have one of those.
Sure.
And so I think that there is a niche that this could fill, but the thing of it is that I don't know how easy or difficult it would be to get all of your things.
What do you mean?
I'm thinking your streaming services. Like, if it was something that doubled as both a media center as well, I could see it gaining some more adoption. But I don't know, dude. I really don't know who this is for. But then again, I don't know anything about it, Fremont and Galileo in the first place. So it's just speculation, and I don't understand. But you are right. Valve has a lot of very clever people, both in hardware and in marketing, and you could fill volumes with what I don't know about the tactics and the success and viability of those things. Dude, I'm hoping that you can see something that I can't, because I just can't see a which way that it makes sense.
I can't, because you can connect your Steam Deck to your TV.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you can dock it and you can use whatever controller you want. And you don't have to just stream. Like, for whatever reason, people try to make it seem like streaming is better than hard software.
Yeah.
Like physical software. And in some ways it is, until the internet goes down.
Yep.
Or until your connection sucks, right?
Ask us how we know.
Yeah, ask us how we know. The whole idea of a console to me is for someone who doesn't want to tinker, who doesn't want to build a PC or to buy a pre-built PC and then have to deal with downloading all these update files and putting them in the right folder and all of that. This is potentially a fix for someone who wants that Steam experience, but they want it in a console that is built for TV rather than something that's also portable. The only thing this does to me is it loses the functionality that comes with a Steam Deck being portable. And so it's almost a lesser thing in my mind. That said, I'm the ultimate hypocrite, right? I have a PC. I have a Steam Deck. They do the same thing. One is portable, one is not. I also have an iPhone and I have an iPad, and they do the same thing. One makes phone calls and one is bigger if I want to watch movies in bed. And so, the tech sector has been really, really good at convincing us to purchase things that are redundant and different versions of each other. And I think that that's exactly what this is. There's no reason for us to have a metal analog pocket when we have plastic ones, but a lot of people bought it. So I think that that's what this is. I actually don't think Valve is as smart here as we think they are. I think that this is unnecessary.
Only time will tell. I'm interested to see. Maybe there's something I don't understand, but yeah, I'm glad that that if I can't see it, neither of us can.
Yeah, like one other quick question for you.
Yeah.
If it really is only for streaming, why?
Yeah. Right? I don't know either.
Yeah. Give us some hard drive space. Unless you're just trying to keep costs down, allow us to download stuff so that things can run smoother.
Absolutely.
So anyway, yeah, that's been our topic of the week.
All right, well now let's turn to a crowdfunding project that's trying to get off the ground. Mr. Nice Guy, I'm going to pop this in the chat here so that you and anybody else who is who's here can have a look. As with Kick and Kickstart always, we're going to talk about some of the virtues, some of the vices, and then say whether or not we think it should be kicked out of here or whether it should be kick-started. This is the Legends Cookbook, Hero of Tides. It's a cookbook inspired by Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. Side note, this is one of the few Legend of Zelda games that I've not actually played, but I've seen part of it played, so I've got the general gist. Now, for said cookbook, it would be a $12 minimum buy-in for a digital copy of the cookbook, $40 for the paperback, and $50 for the hardback if you wanted those. But those aren't in separate tiers. Those are kind of add-ons that you can pop in rather than separate tiers. Most of the tiers wind up being, additional things like an apron or pins or da-da-da and so on, or a whole bundle of all the physical items in one go. This project, they started with a $2,002 goal because that was the year Wind Waker came out. I like the nod.
Clever.
And they're nearly at 10,000 now, with still 25 days left to go. So that's the cookbook. I will just flag that it does say that there are only 7 recipes for the book.
What?
Some of the stretch goals, are like adding on additional information or things like that, but I don't see the stretch goals including having more recipes. And I'm not gonna lie, I was expecting more, like maybe 20 or so, and maybe I've just had it too good for too long, because there was a Breath of the Wild themed cookbook done in 2019 that was $15 for the digital and had about 120 recipes in it. However, to sort of level set here, I have read through many a cookbook. I'm kind of old, and I have had to eat multiple times a day for my entire life, and that's meant cooking somewhat, and not every recipe in a cookbook is a banger. So if the 7 recipes were all fantastic, then maybe that would be amazing. But I think you do need a cookbook with more than 20 or more recipes to be viable, because not everybody's gonna like everything. Yeah, Mr. Nice Guy, I'm so sorry to have droned on about it. What do you think?
I mean, I liked it a lot more until you said there's only 7 episodes.
I know,
7
I
recipes
spoiled it.
in the cookbook. Like that to me is wild. That's crazy work to put out something and give 7 recipes. It's a 7-page book. I mean, obviously I look at the stretch goals here, and I see that there are also things that I feel should be included by default. Like once they reach 4,000, they have a thing on how to fillet a fish. They're going to add a page on how to fillet a fish with illustrated instructions. This is wild to me. Like, I don't even have a problem with the concept. I just think that the lack of content is a very serious issue.
Yeah. And I think this is the type of thing that should, it needs more. And ideally, with that few, not more filler recipes, more good, solid stuff.
The other thing, Mac, about these is there's really no official recipe for any of the stuff.
For sure.
That's in these games.
Oh, yeah.
It's just someone saying, okay, you're eating, pound cake, right? Mm-hmm. Well, here's a recipe for pound cake.
Yeah.
And then if the picture looks cool enough, then everyone's excited about it. Like, oh yeah, I made that pound cake from The Legend of Zelda. It was really good. It's exactly the stuff Link was eating. It's wild. What are your thoughts on Nintendo in this?
There have been quite a few unofficial cookbooks in many different IPs, and so I think it's fairly safe. However, they do in their Kickstarter use a lot of images that are very clearly drawn themselves, but pulled from the game. And I hope they are just slightly different enough, legally distinct, as we like to say. But there are certainly a couple of the artworks that has me a little bit worried. And we know Nintendo is not quite as litigious as, say, Disney. Disney will come after you for shirts you made yourself and wore to Disneyland. I'm only being slightly hyperbolic.
Yeah, that's funny, though. I like that.
Nintendo is just a little bit, just half a step back from that. So yeah, I don't know. It seems a little risky, and it's on their physical things, like the enamel pins that they're selling. So, good luck. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, and once again, giving these folks the benefit of the doubt, maybe less is more. I don't have a problem with an unofficial cookbook. So, shout out to anyone who wants to make a duplicate or a fan version of a Nintendo game. I guess just slap the word unofficial on there, and you're good to go. So I'd say I kickstart this. I'm fine with it.
I'd actually say kick. I like it. I like what's going on, but I think objectively 7 recipes in the book is too few. That's not enough. The idea is not complete with only 7 recipes. Unless that $10,000 stretch goal, which it doesn't reveal what is the 10,000, or not the 10,000, but past the 10,000 stretch goal. Unless you get a stretch goal that's 3 times the numbers of recipes, and we get it up to 21 or so, then I think it is still not ready for prime time. And that's just my take.
Totally get it, man.
Obviously, you're right, Mr. Nice Guy. We wish everybody the best, but it's a divided one way and the other here. That's been Kick or Kickstart.
100%. I got to taste the food really before I decide if this is a good book or not. Now it's time for one of my favorite segments, a segment we like to call Nerd Flex. Ooh. A segment where you, the viewers, try to stump the host. Sometimes you do, sometimes you do not. If you've been here before, you already know. This is a segment where Mac and I use nothing but our noggins to answer multiple choice questions from our test bank, which I do have pulled up and is working this week. If you're here live, you have a job to do. Put a multiple choice gaming related question in the chat. Mac and I will do our best to answer it without Googling, without any type of help. But Mac, the first question we have come out, and it's so funny because we just talked about Zelda. This is a Twilight Princess question. In Twilight Princess, who owns the expensive shop, Fine Goods and Fancy Trinkets Emporium? Who owns the shop, Fine Goods and Fancy Trinkets Emporium?
I have no idea. I've played Twilight Princess. I played it on the Wii. It was a fun time. But I could not begin. I know sometimes they reuse characters, so
Exactly.
I'm trying.
The way it's phrased makes me think that's what's happening here.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of which character it would be, but I'm coming up blank.
Who's the dude? I don't know the name of the dude who kills you in Link's Awakening if you steal. But I feel like it'd be hilarious if it was him. Can't remember his name.
Yeah.
I am gonna go with. It's so silly to even guess like Ganon or something like that. Like it's obviously someone trying to help you.
Sure. I'm gonna guess Tingle just because that's wild and crazy, but that is a character.
Who's the one that would always say, "Hey, listen"? In
Navi,
Ocarina?
the fairy.
Navi. Yeah, I'll go with Navi. What the heck? All right. It's actually Chudley. Chudley.
Ah.
I don't remember Chudley.
Me neither.
Favorite Zelda of all time, Mac? Which one? What do we got?
I mean, Link to the Past, but also there's a special place in my heart for Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link.
I'm a huge Link's Awakening fan. It was one of the ones that got me really into Zelda. Next question is a Pokemon question. What hears festive music and can't help breaking out into a dance? What hears festive music and can't help breaking out into a dance? Tough questions today.
Yeah, tough questions. I'm going to guess Clefairy, but I don't rightly know. It's probably some, Gen 3 or Gen 4 Pokemon, frankly.
Yeah, it's probably not one of the early ones. You're going to go Clefairy? Like, it's weird, but I want to go Jigglypuff. I don't think Jigglypuff dances, though. Jigglypuff, puts people to sleep.
Yeah.
But whatever. We're learning stuff today. We don't always get these all right, y'all. The correct answer, Mac, is Ludicolo. Ludicolo. That's got to be a Gen 3, Gen 4 Pokemon.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, well, let's get one more question. I'm pushing this random button.
Fingers crossed. We're going to get this one.
Interesting.
Feel it.
Well, it's a special round.
Oh, okay.
So let's see what we got. It says, name 2 characters that only appear in Star Wars video games, but not the movies or TV shows. What a question.
Ooh, okay.
This is going to be hard. Name 2 characters that only appear in Star Wars video games, but not the movies or the TV shows. This is tough.
Okay, so I think Dash Rendar, he's the protagonist in Dark Forces, and he never shows up in anything else.
What about Cal
Kestis from Jedi Survivor?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, that's one. That's 2. I mean, we got 2.
We got 2, and that's one for each of us. But I wonder who else. I know stuff like, I just don't play that many Star Wars games.
Those are 2 that are on the answer. So let's see what answers they have. Okay, so they say Revan, Kyle Katarn.
Okay, Katarn.
And Cal Kestis.
Okay, Revan, man, yeah. Revan doesn't show up in anything else, but he's a big deal in Knights of the Old Republic.
There we go. Well, hey, 1 for 3 ain't bad when you get questions like that. And that has been Nerdflex.
All right, well, now we turn to a little bit of legalese.
Legalese.
I'm not a lawyer. I just play one on a podcast. And Mr. Nice Guy, I've got some maybe good news out of a suit.
What is it?
called Capstone Studios v. Coxcom. Now, Coxcom, of course, we're talking about Cox, the internet service provider,
Sure.
What is interesting is that a lot of the legal framework that underpins how we conduct things in the internet, you and I, both citizens of the internet, of course,
Sure.
these are things that people came up with back at the turn of the century. We put them together, we called them the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. The idea was we were going to figure out how to preserve copyright into the new millennium and this wild fandangled thing of the internet that we're going. But no matter how much you might think you could foresee the future or see how it was going to go, things would always be just a little bit different. And this is a way in which, and to quote the judge in this case, something that, quote, borders upon the silly, end quote, and has since 2000. And it impacts all of us with respect to our IP addresses. Things that kind of track us. They are a part of where your computer is, where you are, where you're, accessing the internet. And what this had to do with was it had to do with people using BitTorrent and a 2022 movie called Fall that was owned by Capstone Studios. And basically, they identified 30 IP addresses that they said, hey, these are 30 IP addresses that are being internet service provided by Cox, the internet service provider. And these are all people who have used BitTorrent and have pirated this movie of ours. And they sent a demand for Coxcom to turn over the IP addresses and the identities of the people who were involved, so that Capstone Studios could send them letters themselves. And this is long before anything else has happened. There's not been any subpoenas, there's no discovery, there's no anything like that.
Sure.
Because of a portion of the DMCA, Section 5112H of the DMCA, that basically allows you as a, rights holder, Mr. Nice Guy, you discover that somebody is stealing your intellectual property.
My pod.
Yeah, stealing your pod, and you go ahead and you have any random clerk, just clerk at the court's offices,
Sure,
essentially issue a 512H, an emergency subpoena for the information of those ISP addresses.
Right.
And they hit the hiccup in this because some of the people who were at Coxcom having their internet services provided by them, they said, no, I didn't steal anything. I object to you giving out this information. And that got in front of a magistrate judge who said, yeah, for several very procedural reasons, it's ridiculous that we are allowing people to make and get your, random person's information, your name, your address, your IP address, to hand those over without any sort of evidence that you have done wrong. We are giving somebody your information. And so it looks almost like, and there's a lot more interesting procedural things that go into, this only applies to data when it's being traveled peer-to-peer, or when it's being stored on Google's servers or a cloud server or something like that. There's a whole bunch of other things, but the big take-home is that this is a way in which just random normal people like you and I may wind up actually having a good thing happen and having somebody have to jump through an extra hoop before our ISP turns over our name, our address, IRL, and our IP addresses to somebody who just says, hey, I think Mr. Nice Guy might have stolen something from me. And then they get your address without having to actually show any reason why they should be able to get your personal information.
So Mac, like, just to play devil's advocate for like 60 seconds, because we like to have like fair and balanced conversations here. And I'm sure that some of our viewers may be thinking, Okay, but sure, search warrants are issued based on probable cause, right? With no evidence of wrongdoing, but simply a suspicion of wrongdoing. And you may or may not have the answer, but what's the difference here?
So the difference here is that you would have to have a judge sign off on a subpoena. You would have to go to a judge and say, hey, we need to, and you will make your presentation. There's an old saying about how you could get a grand jury to indict a ham sandwich. And the notion there is that a grand jury and a lot of proceedings that don't involve the antagonistic, the back and forth, trying to make somebody prove their case, winds up being the case where the bar is a lot lower. And in the case of a subpoena issued from a judge, that bar is usually lower because often you don't have somebody in there arguing the opposite side and being like, hey, really? Is that enough? But a judge standing there and saying, really? Is at least a slightly higher bar than just me walking to a court clerk and saying, hey, I want you to issue a 512H subpoena for Mr. Nice Guy's personal information. Because there's not even a sniff test there. Any court clerk can submit those 512H subpoenas. And that's what the magistrate judge is going on. He's just like, that is such a low bar. Already the probable cause is a low bar. We need to at least be living up to a bar, not 0 bar.
Got it. Cool.
Yeah. Of course. Well, anyway, that's not the law, but that is some legalese for you this week. Hopefully your identity stays a little bit safer.
Nice. Love it. That's been our show, but before we go, we have one last segment called What We've Been Watching and What We've Been Playing, where we talk about just that, the cool, nerdy stuff we've been into across all platforms. We're platform, console, agnostic here on Two Nerds in a Pod. We like to, if you see good content wherever it is. If you're here live, let us know what you've been watching and playing. Mac, what have you been into lately?
Dude, now that I've been back for a few weeks from the Worldcon, from the sci-fi and fantasy thing, I have been doing a little bit of writing myself and doing a little bit of reading as well. I picked up this sci-fi book called The Archangels of Funk.
Nice. I love it. I love the title.
It's nice. It's nice. And a few other books. I've been playing, some of the same games and watching some of the same series, but I have been playing at least one cool new thing, and that is one of my groups of people that I play tabletop role-playing games with. We were playing back when we were all living in Utah, then we kept playing after we all moved our separate ways, and we're still playing to this day. We started doing this thing where we would switch off who was running the game and the genres and things that we were playing in. Obviously, we were using GURPS. You know the score. But we did just barely finish off playing a GURPS game that was based off of the Percy Jackson series.
No way. I didn't know you were a fan.
I've never read before, but it was the person who was running it. It was his favorite, and so he went ahead and ran that, and we were playing it. And now we're playing something based off of Avatar: Legend of Korra, actually taking place after Korra's died and everything, but set in like Republic City and such. So kind of fun little nerdy stuff to get into. Find a TTRPG group near you and do some playing. That's all I have to say about that. Mr. Nice Guy, what cool nerdy things are you into?
So it's interesting. I was just reading up on Archangels of Funk as you said that, and it's a newer book. It looks like 2024, and it sounds fascinating. So I may have to add that to the list. In terms of watching and playing, it's funny. I've been watching a lot of book reviews on TikTok, which it's funny, like the fast food mentality that people make fun of with Americans, of us wanting things now. One of the great things about TikTok is you can read reviews of your favorite type of content, or watch them rather, in like 60 seconds to 3 minutes, which, if you find a source who you trust, is super useful and saves a lot of fast. So I've been watching some of those. As far as games, been camping, right? So did take my analog pocket and been doing some NES games on there. Journey to Silius, fantastic NES game that I really enjoy, and I actually have a physical copy of. So I've been playing that on the analog pocket. And then, believe it or not, Mac, Escape from Camp Deadly. Very, very basic Game Boy game. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's brilliant.
Okay.
But it's just like a nostalgic thing. I had borrowed it from my friend when I was a kid, and I remember I'd sit in my room, 4 AA batteries, playing that game when I should have been doing homework. And so it's literally a nostalgic thing. Like if you play it, you'll be like, oh, this is terrible, right? But for me, it's a memory, and so I really enjoy it. Side note, the variance between the quality of Game Boy games is wild. We have Escape from Camp Deadly, like side-scrolling, very basic. And then we also have Link's Awakening and one of my favorite games, Alfred Chicken, Donkey Kong 94. Like, just the variance between games graphically and in terms of quality, what a console. Great memories. Mac, that's it, man. Would you mind taking us home, sir?
Not at all. Thank you, everybody, for coming out and being part of the show. We invite you to join us every Monday at 7 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Central on twitch.tv/2NerdsInAPod to catch the live show. And, of course, we thank you for listening to us after the fact. And to anybody out there, just remember, until we see you next, be excellent to each other and keep it nerdy, y'all. Bye.
Deuces. See ya.